What's really interesting is what happened out of APEC were things like talking about AI policy, talking about energy security and sustainability. These are things where Korea has not only an interest, but also the potential for global leadership. Korea's soft power is actually really high in the United States right now. Korea is seen as a reliable partner. In a moment of changing global and security order, the markets in both Japan and Korea are a bit saturated. So I think that's actually one area that I'm seeing firsthand, eager for more growth. I think what I answer now is curiosity, but curiosity to make sure information is correct. Building back when you fail is, I think, the most important thing, especially in entrepreneurship.
안녕하세요. 생각을 여는 대화 끄적톡입니다. 지난화에서는 한국 사회와 경제, 우주 산업을 새로운 시선으로 바라보면서 그 변화와 새로운 기회에 대해 이야기 나눠봤습니다. 오늘은 매일 요즘 뉴스에 나오죠. 이 국제 정세에 관련해 가지고 얘기해 보도록 하는데요.
네, 국제사회 속에서 한국이 어떤 역할을 할 수 있을지, 그리고 미중 경쟁이라는 거대한 흐름 속에서 어떤 전략을 고민해야 할지 다시 트로트 베아레스 펠로우님과 함께 이야기 이어가 보겠습니다.
Yeah, APEC Summit was a huge success for me individually and personally. But there are some still like these post-challenges and some even suggesting that Korea might be navigating this tricky path. So among this intense competition between the States and China, what do you think is the most realistic national strategy for Korea to, navigate this path?
Actually, I think thinking about the APEC summit and how it progressed and the aftermath is actually a really good way of thinking about Korea's foreign affairs strategy generally. Because on the one level, Korea is situated between great powers, and it always has been. So the question of Korea's how it deals with Sino-US rivalry is a challenge it's always been there. It's not a new challenge for Korea. But what's really interesting is that in the summit, the Korean president, met with both Trump, he met with Xi, and Xi and Trump met together. So we have the two great power leaders meeting on the Korean soil. It's actually really interesting to think about this being the meeting place, right? In that sense, Korea was the host that let this happen. And actually, that's the second thing that I think is really interesting about a summit like APEC, is Korea's return to what we might call hosting diplomacy. I think that this is something where Korea has excelled in the past. In the 2010s, Korea hosted several high-level international summits, and Korea was really good at it. It's able to be hospitable to the world. It's able to showcase its culture, but it's also able to, from my perspective, as a policy analyst, showcase its ability to be a bridge, be not just a bridge between great powers, but a center of a network. So APEC is really important to me, and I wrote a piece about this, that it's not just about these great power tensions that are playing out, but also all of these other Asia-Pacific economies coming together to discuss very important issues. And not only that, Korea was also able to help guide the agenda for what's coming up. So what's really interesting is what happened out of APEC were things like talking about AI policy, talking about energy security and sustainability. These are things where Korea has not only an interest, but also the potential for important global leadership. So that's why I think APEC was actually really important for Korea. One thing I will say is sitting in Washington and talking to many other experts who follow Asia issues in Washington, there was a lot of questions about what would be President Lee's foreign policy, particularly as it relates to great powers, China and the United States. But two important things, I think, are starting to change how people in Washington are seeing President Lee. The first one was his visit to Washington in August, which I think was generally understood to be quite a success. Trump was very favorable to their visit in the Oval Office. There was agreement about the direction of the relationship, including Korea's investments in America's shipbuilding industry, which is a really important talking point for the Trump administration. And then the second one was the APEC summit. I think that's also changing minds in Washington a little bit because of this great power dynamic that played out. Now, of course, it didn't solve all of these very complicated issues that you mentioned. Supply chain security, critical mineral regulations and controls, those aren't going to be solved in a single summit that's tackling so many issues. But what it did was it set a roadmap for how Korea, the United States, China, and all of the other member states, and really the world, are thinking about these issues. It was at a moment really to get the US-China relationship back on track, to cool down, hot tempers for a little bit. And that's what I think those two moments are changing, I think, a little bit about how Washington is seen presently right now.
There are concerns that volatile elements in U.S. domestic politics could influence ROK-U.S. relations. Being in Washington, D.C., what is the actual mood there and what is your outlook for our partnership?
Yeah, this is a very tricky question because politics change every day. But what I can say is generally in Washington, there's actually a really favorable sentiment toward Korea. Korea as a security partner, Korea as an industrial partner. To Korea experts in Washington, they tend to be experts on security or experts on trade. Korea is seen as a reliable partner and in a moment of changing global and security order. So that's one aspect of this. And then on the political side, I think there is a widespread understanding that Korea is an important industrial and cultural partner, right? Korea's soft power is actually really high in the United States right now. And I think that's important to pay attention to. It's hard to, I'm a political scientist, it's very hard to quantify soft power, but you kind of know it when you see it. And Americans in general, and this goes to American politicians and business leaders, they see Korea as a good partner going forward. So certainly over the past several years, Korean industries have been making massive investments in building back America's manufacturing base. That's a very important priority in Washington right now. And that's being seen favorably right now in this moment.
So Japan is also a crucial factor to count in if we talk about geopolitics of Korea. So how do you assess the current Korea-Japan relations and how do you think it will develop later?
The first one is noticing a generational shift that's happening. I look at public opinion in Korea and Japan, and younger Koreans are much more excited about working with Japan, to go to Japan, to eat Japanese food, and even to work with Japanese companies. And that's what I think is important. The second aspect of this is that Korea and Japan are both facing similar geopolitical and international economic pressures right now. Their economies are different. There's different structures to their economies. That's a different question. But they're both vulnerable to the current shocks that are being sent with the global economy right now. What I'm seeing is a growing interest among Korean companies and Japanese companies to figure out ways that they can collaborate in these new industrial areas. Because economy now is inherently transnational. These high-tech industries are very international. And so finding complementarities between these countries is very important right now. I think that reframing of the relationship is the direction where we're seeing right now.
Yeah. And I'm also seeing some of the companies, especially startups, trying to find any opportunities in Japanese market. So maybe you've also heard or seen some of the cases there, if there's any.
Yeah, actually, I think in the startup sector, it's something that I've been observing. So sometimes I get to go and talk with not only Korean startup founders, Korean VCs, Korean government officials that are helping incubate startups, but also Japanese ones as well. And I've talked firsthand to them wanting to work more because the nature of startups requires going global a bit more, because the markets in both Japan and Korea are a bit saturated. There's actually a really big desire among startups in different sectors to work together. So I think that's actually one area that I'm seeing firsthand, eager for more growth.
For young Korean people preparing for a career in economics, policy, or technology, what one skill is absolutely necessary to survive and thrive in this fast-changing world?
Ooh, it's hard to pick one skill. When I got this question before, I used to say curiosity, creativity as soft skills, and writing, communication as hard skills. And I'm saying I used to say that because the nature of the job market and the world has changed, especially with the fourth industrial revolution and the advent of AI. I think what I answer now is curiosity, but curiosity to make sure information is correct. I think that's the most important thing that a person can have right now.
Yeah, it's really important thinking about these hallucinations.
Yeah.
because I'm using like Gemini, ChatGPT all day. And if I'm using this reasoning model, it's easy to always get these hallucinations when I'm doing the research.
It's a trap. I think it's a real trap. I'm very lucky that it didn't exist while I was a student because the temptation is real to use it. I'm thankful that it's easier now as a researcher. Actually, as an example, I'm doing interviews in Korea this week and doing voice memos, recording. And now the voice memo app transcribes it immediately.
Yeah.
When I was doing my dissertation research, I had to transcribe them. And 1 hour took 3 hours for me to transcribe, but now it's immediate. So it's a very different world right now. So the demands of the job market, I think, on young people are particularly challenging because we don't know what the job market is going to look like in 6 months, much less a year or two from now.
Yeah, so I think many experts or scholars are talking about how to build your specialty. And it links to what you mentioned about this curiosity about the truth
Yeah.
or about finding out what's the right fact
Yeah.
or what's the right data, right?
Yeah.
Now, FKI is striving to redefine and spread entrepreneurship in our society. To foster this spirit, what can companies and young people do? And we'd love your advice as a longtime friend of Korea.
Yeah, this is a hard one. I think that, as I mentioned before in our previous conversation, Koreans are very creative, and that's really important in this domain. I think another important thing, and this is something that we all have to practice, including myself, is you're going to not always succeed, that you learn from failure, right? And that's very hard for industries that are risk averse. But the idea is you create through recreating over time. And so instilling a sense of resilience, right? And building back when you fail is, I think, the most important thing, especially in entrepreneurship.
I think it also resonates with your career path because anthropology to industrial policies is actually leaving something behind and trying new things. Of course, those experiences definitely help you.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, maybe it's not a quote, but like my central driving mode is curiosity and sincerity. And I'm just so curious about everything, right? So you have to leave things behind, but you leave things behind as experiences and opportunities present themselves. So that's, I think, also part of entrepreneurism is you have to figure out what opportunities are there too, to figure out what the market for your skill set is or your temperament is too.
Or brave enough to recreate things.
Yeah, brave enough to recreate things.
Yeah, right? Or I love actually this quote, learning by doing. Yeah, it encompasses not only the successes, but also failures. Because sometimes it could hurt you, but at the same time, it could lead you to a better place.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
아까 국제정세 얘기 듣다 보니까 어땠어요? 저는 좀 머리가 지끈거렸거든요. 그냥 세상 살기가 왜 이렇게 팍팍하지? 이런 느낌이 들었거든요.
네, 저도요. 그런데 마지막에 펠로님이 해주신 말씀 듣고 좀 더 적극적으로 시도를 해봐야겠다고 생각이 들었어요.
그러니까요. 사실 인류학부터 이런 산업정책까지 연구한다는 게 어찌 보면 되게 큰 용기를 갖고 계속 발전해 나가야 된다는 거잖아요. 그래서 그런 의미에서 좀 반성도 하게 되는 것 같았어요.
그러게요. 2편에 걸쳐서 정말 알찬 내용을 많이 들은 것 같아요.
펠로우님과 함께한 시간이 여러분께도 좋은 자극이 되었길 바랍니다. 저희는 다음에도 여러분의 생각을 활짝 열어드릴 이야기로 찾아오겠습니다. 조떼꾸알 부탁드리고 다음 편도 기대해주세요. 안녕!